how do our bodies respond to training stress, and how can we use that information to help us improve our fitness the right way. So to dive into this topic, let's take a little look at some other physical stresses that our bodies go through and how our body adapts. So the first one is a hand callus. So let's say you wanted to develop a callus on your hand as quickly as possible, and you got this big pile of dirt in your backyard. So let's look at two scenarios. The first scenario is you go out there and you shovel the pile of dirt as long as you possibly can until you just collapse of exhaustion. Okay, and now your hands have blisters on them because how long you were out there shoveling that dirt. And the second scenario would be someone who wants to shovel for 20 minutes a day, right? He's gonna shovel 20 minutes today, tomorrow, and every day he's moving just a little bit. And over the course of a week or two, the callus starts to develop on his hands. Now let's look back to that first example. That guy has blisters on his hands after day number 1. So he can't even go back out there and shovel for a couple weeks because he has to wait for the blisters to heal on his hand. Now, a second example we can give is sun tanning, right? So if you want your skin to become darker, now I don't really do this, right? I just will get red like a lobster, but let's look at two scenarios here. Someone who wants to get suntan. So would it be better for them to go outside for 30 minutes every day for that first week? Or would it be better to go to the beach, put on no sunscreen, and at the end of the day, you're just red as a lobster, and now in order for you to get tan, you're gonna have to wait for your skin to heal first. You're gonna have a sunburn versus the first person who's gonna develop that suntan through frequency. So in both of those examples, the callus on your hand and the suntan, most of us would agree that you would choose the person that's gonna do just a little bit every day. And in the same way, when you're training to improve your fitness, and you get super sore the next day, that's comparable to your nervous system having a sunburn or having, it's being blistered. Your nervous system is blistered. So a much better way to improve your fitness is to just take small doses more frequently, right? Just like those other two examples, just do a little bit of exercise, but do it more often. So the fitness fatigue model is just it's a graph that shows what happens when you train, right? So initially, when you train to try to improve your fitness, actually the opposite happens, right? So maybe later that day or the next day even, your fitness is actually lower, right? You're in a state of fatigue, but as you recover over those next 2 days, now your fitness begins to increase, and then it surpasses where it was, and they call that super compensation. But you don't surpass your current fitness level until you recover from that training session, right? So this is a critical detail in people's training where you have to ensure that you are actually allowing yourself to recover so that you're able to reach super compensation, right? Because that's the only way it happens. And so of course, if you're doing a lower intensity workout, something that's fairly easy for you, then that time to recovery is gonna be quick, right? It's gonna be maybe just 1 day. But if you're doing, as the intensity of your training increases, you need to also increase the rest period for you to actually recover and improve your fitness. Because if you don't, then your charge is just going down and you're actually decreasing your fitness because you're training so hard and you're not allowing your body to recover. And then that's really what we call overtraining. So an interesting thought here is Firas Zahabi. Now he was George St. Pierre's coach. George St. Pierre, the legendary UFC fighter, right? And Firas Zahabi, if you're an MMA athlete, you have so many boxes of fitness that you have to check because of how well-rounded an athlete you have to be. So you have to be very careful that you're not overtraining. And this is where working with a professional really helps if you're trying to increase your athletic performance. But Firas Zahabi's, his strategy was basically, he wanted to train with George every single day. There were no days off. And if someone looking from the outside might say, wow, that sounds like crazy, very taxing. But the whole key here with his training was that he didn't want George to ever be sore. So they trained every day and they did just enough to sharpen that knife a little bit and then they stopped. So they had very high frequency and low intensity training, and that's kind of what he believed. Okay, so let's look at some of the implications of this information. The first thing is it's good news, right? Because it's individual to you. You don't need to train, like somebody else. And I always tell people who are just getting into to training, start right where you're at. Start with just a comfortable challenge. And then point number 2, you just progressively overload it over time. All that being said, no matter what you're doing, auto-regulation is critical. Just the ability for you to be in tune with your body and understand how you're feeling that day, and maybe saying, hey, maybe I'm not gonna do the deadlifts I'm supposed to do today, but I'm still gonna get in there. Again, keeping that frequency high, and I'm just gonna do what I can do. Maybe it's just some mobility movements and I do a couple push-ups and some body weight stuff, but just making sure that you're moving the body more frequently. And I think that if your goal is health and fitness like most people's is, I think that the training variable that you should really think about is frequency and never overdoing the intensity. Because if you're trying to be, again, health and promote longevity, high intensity training is not the way. High intensity training, I'm not saying it's bad, but it needs to be in measured doses and be done intelligently, because too many people are training at high intensity all the time, because that's really what the discussion is about today. Having high frequency, making sure you're managing that stress and rest ratio, because you have to make sure, again, as stress goes up, the rest also has to go up, and that's how you increase fitness. Because if it's too much stress without the rest, then you're probably overtraining. And if you're the other side of it, too much rest without enough stress, then you're just gonna be obese like a majority of the population. So thank you for watching. Leave a comment or question in the box below. Like this video if you want more content like this. I appreciate you all. Catch you next time. Coach ZP.